Now for the latest on COVID-19 in the Asia-Pacific region, let's go live to our correspondents Grace Lee in Tokyo and Greg Navarro in Sydney. Hello there, Grace. In Tokyo, Japan's vaccinations for medical professionals are scheduled today. So first of all, can you tell us the vaccine distribution? How is it going on?
Indeed, Japan is now starting its vaccination rollout, starting with about 40,000 healthcare workers at public and national hospitals like the one you see behind me. They say that in about a week, they're hoping to start the rollout in 100 hospitals across the country. And this, of course, comes about 2 months after the rollout in the UK and the US. So Japan is quite a bit behind. This is due to the strict vaccination rules in the country. For foreign vaccines, they had to test the vaccine on Japanese people specifically before they could begin the rollout process. So the Pfizer vaccine has been finally approved. That happened over the weekend. So authorities are hoping to make sure that the vaccination process goes ahead swiftly and as carefully as they can.
Well, Grace, the Tokyo officials said that in the last 2 months, 838 confirmed cases are missed reports. What's the reason and what are the effects?
Well, according to the authorities here in Tokyo, they say it's all due to the mismanagement of one button. They say that at public healthcare centers across Tokyo, there was just simply too much work, so the public healthcare workers were not able to properly assess the situation. They were supposed to log all of the cases and push a final button to send those numbers to the public healthcare authorities here, and they failed to do so. Tokyo's Governor Yuriko Koike also mentioned that there is a new a new system for tallying COVID-19 cases that could have contributed to that issue as well. She says that it's something that won't be happening again in the future.
And Shimane prefecture in southwest Japan plans to cancel its Olympic torch relay events. So what can you tell us about that?
Well, it's the talk of the town at the moment. Shimane Prefecture's governor has come out to say that he does not approve of how Tokyo has been handling COVID-19. He specifically mentioned the fact that there are a growing number of people dying at home, unable to get to hospitals. So in the past few weeks, with the second state of emergency here, cases have been going down, but they haven't been able to exit the state of emergency due to the fact that hospitals are still largely overwhelmed and the fact that there are still a lot of people dying in their homes compared to before, waiting for hospital space. So that has been a major concern for him. He says that this is going to be something that is later discussed formally at a meeting later today.
Thank you very much, Grace. Now let's turn to Greg in Sydney. Australia's second largest state, Victoria, has reported no new local cases on Wednesday at the final day of a 5-day lockdown. Meanwhile, New Zealand reported 2 new cases just before authorities are due to announce whether a lockdown in Auckland will be extended. So, Greg, can you tell us the latest in Australia first?
All right, well, let's start right here in New South Wales. In New South Wales, we've gone nearly a month, actually a little over a month, without any locally acquired cases. Most states and territories around the country are relatively COVID-free. And now, as you mentioned, the state of Victoria has gone 24 hours without any new cases. That's hugely significant because that means as of midnight tonight, that snapped, very strict, hard 5-day lockdown will come to an end. That lockdown was put into place after a COVID case from a returning traveler somehow jumped to a hotel quarantine worker, leading to a total of 19 people being infected with this. Now that led to a widespread tracing and great encouragement on testing. Listen to this. About 40,000 people got tested in Melbourne over the last 24 hours. That's given health officials there enough confidence to not only lift that lockdown, but also allow people to start to go back to things. That's significant because the Australian Open is being held in Melbourne, and for the last 5 days, crowds have not been allowed in. However, that will all change as of tomorrow. In fact, tickets were on sale very early this morning, even before the announcement was made. People are very excited about being able to head back out there. They'll be able to see the men's and women's finals over the weekend in person.
That's pretty good news in Australia. Any updates from New Zealand on ending Auckland's 3-day lockdown?
Well, we are awaiting word from New Zealand's cabinet and New Zealand's prime minister. It should be coming any minute now. They were meeting to decide. Today would be the third and final day of that 3-day snap lockdown in Auckland. The first such lockdown, well, since about 6 months ago. And this all came about when a family of 3, including an 18-year-old child, daughter within the family, tested positive for the virus. They believe that the mother may have been the source of infection because she works as an airline caterer. They think that that possibly could have come from an international flight crew. Now, the city of Auckland put into a 3-day strict lockdown. Food and beverage services suspended on Air New Zealand as a result of all this. And it has prompted also widespread testing and a massive hunt to find the specific source. So right now what is happening in New Zealand is that officials, health leaders are all meeting to determine whether the 2 new cases that were detected in the last 24 hours were simply contacts and expected, and if they believe things are safe enough to at least step back that lockdown, go to a stage 3 lockdown, which would allow more movement, getting people and businesses hopefully back to as normal as possible these days.
Thank you very much indeed, Greg Navarro reporting from Sydney, and earlier Grace Lee reporting from Tokyo. Now, the South Korean Prime Minister is calling for tighter virus controls after new infections reached their highest level in more than a month. The government has relaxed distancing curbs this week after largely containing a third wave of the virus. But new cases bounced back in 3 days, topping 600 on Tuesday for the first time in almost 40 days. And the surge came after a ban on night entertainment was lifted and restaurants were allowed to open until later. Cases in South Korea have surpassed 84,000 with more than 1,500 deaths.